Hello, thank you everyone for being here with us today. We have another AMA. It's another exciting time that we're going to speak about Planet Watch and the news we have to tell. We are going to answer a lot of questions that you have sent to us. It's regarding the new licenses, it's regarding the listing, it's regarding a lot of new things that we have prepared for you. And again, we have the pleasure to have the Planet Watch CEO with us, Claudio Parrinello. And just for the beginning, because this is very important in the last months and in the last month, we have discussed about our new business model, our new licensing offer that we have for you. And just for the first thing as an introduction, if you can tell us more about it, Claudio.
Okay, thank you very much, Marina. First of all, let me just apologize for our technical glitch earlier today. This was supposed to be a live AMA, and it cannot be live because we had some technical problems. So it can even happen to blockchain people. Anyway, apologies, and this will be soon available on our channel, obviously. So, okay, talking about licenses and business model. So the story is fairly simple. We realized that we were looking for the best way to ensure that everybody who wants to join Planet Watch in any country of the world could do this as fast and as cheaply as possible, in a way. Initially, we thought that the best way to forward was for us to procure the sensors and to resell them to the community. But we soon learned that being a global distributor of hardware, it's a very tough job because of a number of challenges related to logistics, customs, you name it. So we hit a bottleneck in terms of hardware shipping, which was because of our own success, obviously, because all sensors were in high demand. So we looked for a solution and realized that the best way forward was to split the hardware part of the equipment, of the process, from the software part. So to make a long story short, we realized that it's much better if you can buy yourself an approved Planet Watch sensor from a local reseller, retailer, or the manufacturer online, on one hand, and on the other hand, the costs related to onboarding you on the software side, maintaining the network, blockchain transaction, and everything will be folded in a license fee that we will be charging. So we thought this was the best way forward, and apparently this is working because so far we started implementing the new model for Type 4 sensors, and my understanding is that you can now seamlessly get a Type 4 Atmo 2 Pro sensor if you want it, wherever you live, by and large, because thanks also to our discount code and our cooperation with the manufacturer of that sensor, I think most people have been able to get them at a good discounted price wherever they live. And then, of course, the next step is to activate a license. So the rationale, once again, is to make it easier and cheaper for people to join Planet Watch. And we hope this works as expected, obviously.
That's very good news. Thank you so much, Claudio. And we have the first question that is related to the licenses. One of our listeners has sent a question about what about the people who currently own the devices bought through Planet Watch? Do we have a perpetual license?
Okay, the story is the following. Since we don't like to change things retroactively in any way, we have decided that whoever had bought a sensor directly from Planet Watch on our own website will have a perpetual license for using that sensor. So the license is perpetual, however, you have to know that it's attached to the device. It's not attached, of course, to the person or to the Algorand account. But as long as you own and operate the device that you bought from us, you will get a license free of charge for however long the device lasts.
And again, good news for you. So we have the second question. Are the licenses tied to the device or the account?
Again, for the time being, the licenses are tied to devices because that's the thing that makes most sense to us. the license enables you to connect a piece of approved equipment to the network. That is the logic of it. As I mentioned earlier in the previous AMA, probably in the future we will try to remove further friction from the system and allow the possibility to port devices onto port licenses onto the other devices and things like that. But for the time being, we have to keep it simple. And to keep it simple, the statement is licenses are attached to devices.
Great. And we have also some questions about the devices. So where can we find the approved devices and where can we buy them? So how do they know about all the approved devices?
Sure. So again, as I said, selling ourselves the devices was very challenging. However, what is also a bit challenging, and we're working on it, is to ensure that there are a good number of sensors available and that these sensors are good enough for our network and that you get the best possible prices. So once again, we were able to negotiate a discount for you guys from the maker of Atmo 2 Pro, and so that now you can get it and you can get it on a good price. We are working to ensure that as soon as possible, and I'm gonna put some dates on this, Type 1 and Type 3 devices become available. So for Type 1, I'm hoping that devices will be available early in June. And for Type 3, I'm also hoping that before the end of June, we'll be able to onboard a device, make a deal with the manufacturer, so put on our website a link to go and buy it, maybe with a discount, maybe not, but we're trying to do our best. But again, just to summarize, Type 1, certainly in June. At least some device, not a large amount probably, but again, as many as possible early in June. Type 3, we are on board with one device, which seems to respond rather well. So if all goes well, again, June. Type 2, we are evaluating a number of options, so I would not commit to next month yet, but again, we're working on it.
Okay. This answers to all of the ones that had the question regarding the availability of the licenses. And we hear that in June there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff coming up. And another interesting thing that is, I think, everyone is expecting is the listing. This is the next big topic and next big news for us. So there are some questions. When is the listing going to be held, and of course, when can we hear more about the news?
Yeah, okay. At this time, I'm quite happy to say that I can say something more than soon, something a bit more specific. And the statement is the following. Before the end of this week, we will be able to disclose where we will be listed first, because we expect the platform to make a public announcement of our listing before the end of this week. So that would be big piece of news, obviously. Once this happens, you will know where we list. You may want to open an account with that platform, of course, as soon as possible, because fairly soon after that, there will be an announcement that planet deposits have been opened. So people who want to trade planets will be able to, again, join the platform, deposit planets, and get ready for trading. So it's coming, guys. I mean, by Friday, you will know where, and when will be soon, but this is really soon, because the policy of the platform is to make such announcements not long before the whole thing starts.
So very exciting. We have the next question that is connected to the planets is who would want to buy planets and why? So what is the rationale behind that?
Okay, so by reading again our white paper, I realized that we should soon enough probably publish a second version, because our business model and our ecosystem is fairly rich and complex. And well, the paper is already quite bulky, and the token model is very thick. Still, in terms of business model, maybe not all aspects and features have been spelled out. So the rationale for the planet is that the planet will be essentially the first point, which is somewhat complex, is that in our ecosystem, there are both corporate and consumer players. Most of you guys look at this from a consumer angle, but the idea is that we all together create crowdsource, if you want, data. We put together a big data set, and we as Planet Watch, we transform it into a product which can be of interest to corporates and local government, among others. So when this kind of stakeholders express an interest for access to our data, and I'm talking about, of course, premium access, API-based access to our data on a subscription basis, there will be an income, and this income will be converted. They will either pay directly in Planet, or a fraction of that income will be converted into Planet, and a fraction of it will come back into the accounts of those who own the sensors which stream the data in the first place. This is written in the white paper. Maybe it was not clear enough. So you could say that in some sense, the value of the Planet is backed by the value of the data that we build all together. So whoever wants premium access to the data will be essentially paying in planets into the system. So that's the use case for planets from a corporate point of view. From a retail point of view, you are earning planets as rewards for data. And these rewards, again, as soon as the token is listed, essentially, will be convertible into the purchase of items. And one thing that will be payable in planets, obviously, are licenses. And again, the general idea is that in some cases, we'll give several payment options, planets as well as other options. But whenever several options are given, paying in planets will always be the preferred option, and you get a discounted price. This is the message in containing what's called the Earth credits in the white paper. And again, I realized recently that this Earth credits notion was very confusing to some people. And I'm really sorry about that. We'll try to rephrase it in a simpler way, or even eliminate it altogether, because the meaning of Earth credit is that if you want to buy stuff from Planet Watch, prices of things would be essentially defined in fiat money, in euros. So there will be a conversion step from planets to euros, which could go through this the acquisition of Earth credits. But the really important, but Earth credits are not money, are not transferable money, are not tokens. It's just an accounting tool. So what really matters is that your planets will be convertible into the purchase of products and services. Some of the products, potential products you mentioned, like physical devices like air purifiers for your home, or licenses to connect further sensors. There could also be other things which I'll keep as a little surprise. We're talking also about physical goods, like even food goods, special goods. So from a retail point of view, the use case is related to getting product and services of interest to families and consumers. From a corporate point of view, that's the way to access our premium data services.
That's great to hear. We have another question that is related to the token model, and it's quite specific, but we think that is still very interesting. What happens when multiple sensors are based on the same pixel? So do pixel rules also apply to Type 4 sensors, which is an Atmotube Pro sensor?
Okay, first of all, I answer the second question. The second answer is no, in the sense that Type 4 sensors are not tied to pixel. So their performance and their rewards are not related to pixels. That's the first thing. Pixels are relevant for Type 1 and Type 2 sensors. Type 1 and 2 means sensors which are placed outdoor in a fixed location. And the reason why we have created this pixel-related rule is that because the goal of the project is to create an optimal data set of air-quality data. And for outdoor data, there is an optimal distribution of sensors which maximizes the quality of the data. So you don't want too many sensors too close to each other, but you want to cover as much as possible all high population areas. That is simply the logic behind the token model and behind the pixel stuff. So if you own a sensor, you live somewhere, and so you're based in the sensor is based in some pixel, and somebody else comes along and puts a sensor in the same pixel, Again, it's written in token model, but I'm trying to summarize it again. If you have been there first and you've been streaming data on a regular basis, you got a sensor score, which kind of makes you the lead sensor in that pixel, which means that you will earn more than the other guy. If, however, your sensor starts losing streams and days and no longer sends data, your sensor reputation score will decrease. And if your reputation score becomes lower than the other person's score, whoever has the highest score in the pixel for that sensor type gets the largest rewards. So this kind of competition is separate for type 1 and type 2. For type 1, the premium outdoor devices, one sensor works out as leader in the pixel, and any other sensor is a backup sensor. On the other hand, for type 2 sensors, the first 5 sensors are all considered leaders and earn the same a priori, and whoever comes next is a backup sensor. And you can lose lead status based on the rules that are spelled out in the white paper. Essentially, the whole system is meant to incentivize stable sensor performance and even distribution of sensors. These are all the rules in the game.
This totally makes sense. And talking about the sensors, another question is about the map. Where can we see the Atmotube map on the computer?
Yeah, so I understand it's a bit frustrating because we've been onboarding a large number of Atmotube sensors lately, and yet these were not displayed on the map. Okay, the reason is that the map, the initial release of the map was focusing on type 1 and type 2, so outdoor fixed sensors. And the reason for not mixing, let's say, this data with type 4 data is the fact that if you use a wearable device which moves, there are many more variables and factors which can affect data quality. So it is a bit risky to just mix the data, if you see what I mean. However, we are working to refine our analysis of data from type 4 devices so that they become more reliable, we can use the data better. And in the meantime, we are about to release a new version of the map where you will be able to see, say, pixels where type 4 devices are. And incidentally, you will see an awful lot of sensors in the United States, which so far were essentially empty because there are no type 1 and type 2 devices in the USA. So in the next release of the map, which is coming soon, I believe in a matter of days, all the sensors connected to PlanetWatch, starting from type 1, type 2, and type 4, will be to some extent represented on the map in terms of densities. Of course, we will never, for privacy reasons, we will never disclose the exact location of any sensor. That's why we have this pixel logic. So you will know that in some areas, there are some PlanetWatch sensors. We'll never tell you who is operating what and where exactly he lives. That's for obvious reasons. But again, type 4 ones will be visible soon.
That's great and makes total sense. The next question is connected to the multiple Atmotube pros. So can we have multiple Atmotube pros relaying data back to PlanetWatch and earning as Planet tokens?
Okay, and again, once again, this is about the spirit of the project. The spirit of the project is to gather useful data. So everybody understands that if you put 2 identical sensors next to each other, that is not useful, because if they work correctly, they would just have the same readings. So this is redundant and doesn't add value to the ecosystem. So the general rule, which you have to bear in mind, is that you cannot make a sensor farm if you want to use a kind of mining related language. That is not allowed. If we find out, we might be disqualified. So, I mean, it's okay to have, for example, sensors in the same area. So if you own a sensor and your neighbor owns a sensor as well, of course, there's no question, there's no argument about that. If you put 2 sensors in your house unless you own a castle, but which are, again, close to each other, which in principle are monitoring the same air, let me say, that is not okay. That is not allowed. Of course, we cannot, I mean, we have a sophisticated algorithm, but we cannot police every sensor worldwide. So to some extent, this is a matter of trust between us, and your will to genuinely contribute to the growth of the project. So I hope people will refrain from that kind of behavior, and maybe if they are really keen on PlanetWatch, they might want to own both an outdoor and an indoor sensor, as well as perhaps a wearable, because in that way they will get the most accurate information about the air they breathe in their life. But please don't put two sensors of the same type in the same place. That would not make sense for us.
That's great. And the last question, I think it's really good that we have left it for the last one. So it's thinking about the future and our future plans. Are we going to release a roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is another thing that we are working on and we need to release because it makes a lot of sense both for ourselves in the first place and for you guys, for the community. Now, we have a very ambitious roadmap and we will spell it out as soon as possible. And sorry for this soon coming again, but we are really trying to do our best to deliver on some key milestones, one of them being listing, for example. The other one of them being the release of the new app. So there have been, again, I understand some glitches with the current app, and we'll be working a lot to release a new one, which should be better and allow a much better user experience. So a lot of resources are tied into these activities, not only technical resources, even global resources. So we have not delivered all we wanted to deliver in terms of, for example, documents. So the roadmap will come. I think we'll be able to spell out the roadmap in June. And yes, all in all, I would say, again, we are a startup which was born 17 months ago. As soon as we were born, pandemic broke out. So you can imagine it was a bit of a bumpy ride. But I think we've been delivering on the key milestones of the project. We posted already over 50 million blockchain transactions on the Algorand blockchain. We have very strong support from Algorand and very good feedbacks from the community. So yes, we'll deliver a roadmap in June, I believe. And I think it will be an exciting one for the whole community.
Thank you so much, Claudio. Ending this interview with very exciting news. And of course, we'll be, I think, posting really good news in the next weeks and months. Thank you again for being here with us and listening to this AMA. I don't know, Claudio, if you have the last two words or sentence just to...
Well, I was tempted to repeat what I said at the end of the previous AMA. Bear with us and trust us, but it could become somewhat pathetic. So I would say this project is moving along nicely. In my opinion, we're not just telling ourselves that it is. We have a lot of good, very positive feedbacks, and we will have a few additional excitement announcements to make in the coming weeks in terms of partnerships. So yes, things are moving along nicely. Despite all the turbulence in the markets, I'm quite confident that we would have a very good path ahead of us. So take care, be strong, and watch the planet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.